Some of us still prefer games with old aesthetics or top-down views. One art style is the 18 or 16-bit pixel art, which was extremely popular back in the day. Some developers still opt for those visuals and manage to make some pretty impactful and memorable games. In fact, some of these games are actually the most wholesome and some of my favorite games of all time. How's it going, everyone? This is Caleb from Cubo Gaming, and in this video, I wanted to share 10 of the best pixel art games you can currently play on Steam. Starting things off with an exciting game, Oneshot is a top-down puzzle adventure game where the player controls a child on a quest to restore the sun and save their dying planet. It follows a traditional pixel art style and conveys a pretty powerful story, honestly, from start and even all the way to the end of the game. There are some horror, or I should say thriller elements to the game, and the enemies also keep the game pretty interesting. I'll be honest, some of you may even say the story is a tearjerker by the end of it. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's actually a really good story here and there's a lot to experience. So I really recommend this game. So next on the list is Voidigo. It's a roguelike shooter where you spawn in a vibrant pixel world and have to fight off some really powerful bosses. The idea is that the world is overtaken by corruption and you got to defeat some powerful enemies using basically whatever means necessary. The game allows you to choose between a lot of different weapons and you can also use jumping, dodging, and other power-ups to outsmart your enemies. Also, another cool element of the game is that the bosses aren't always programmed to just fight you all the time, because if you're completely destroying them, at some point they may even start to hide and lurk and just end up hunting you. This actually gives you a lot of different options to use when you're in battle, and it definitely changes things up. Overall, it's a really fun pixel art game that you should definitely check out on Steam. This is another pixel art game that follows a PvP dungeon crawler approach. The twist is that the dungeon crawler and all the enemies and traps in the dungeons are actually player controlled. Crawl can be played with up to 4 players in local co-op, and whenever someone who is controlling a monster kills the crawler, they become the crawler next and have to survive against traps and monsters. The dungeons, traps, and enemies are all randomly generated from a huge selection of variables, which makes the game a lot more fun, since you won't know what to expect with each match. It is a fun co-op pixel art game that can keep you and your friends thoroughly entertained. It's definitely worth checking out on Steam. Dwarf Fortress is a passion project that started in 2003 and has been growing ever since. The idea here is that you spawn in a randomly generated pixel world where everything from personalities, cultures, and societies are randomized, and you have to manage everything. The game is now available on Steam and has a very positive rating. All sorts of crazy things happen in the game where you battle dragons, prevent your people from starving, and manage other aspects of society. The combat mechanics in the game are very well thought out and include aspects like pain, poison, nausea, and different damage based on where you strike the enemy. Now, some players might be a little worried that the game will be a little too difficult, and it is a lot getting into it, but once you get past that first initial learning curve, the game actually flows really well. Also, the devs have improved the new player experience by introducing meaningful tutorials and guides. This game is honestly such a staple, and the dedicated player group that plays this game, they absolutely love it, and it's one of the most impressive games and feats ever, really. Not even just pixel games. So if you're looking for a game that can honestly become a hobby and you want a world to dive into with basically infinite possibilities, Dwarf Fortress is definitely worth looking into. If you've stuck around the Cubold crew and you've joined some of our live streams, then you've known that we have actually been recently playing Rivals of Aether, and it's honestly such a good pixel game, and it's a great game to play with friends. If you're into fighting games like Super Smash Bros. Or Brawlhalla, then you'll feel right at home here. Now, the game does have a single player mode, and there are a lot of characters to choose from, but most of your fun is honestly going to be going through the Steam Workshop, downloading a bunch of the ridiculous and honestly really impressive fighters and maps and just messing around with your friends. I wouldn't say it's, well, the movement in the fighting is definitely tight and it's very impressive. I'm not sure I would say it's on the level of Super Smash Brothers, but honestly, this is probably as close as you can get to that type of game. Also, this game probably has more value than Super Smash Brothers because with the Steam Workshop, you get to play an infinite amount of characters and basically unlimited maps made by the community. Honestly, if you like the fighting games or maybe you don't have a Switch but you like Super Smash Brothers, grab a couple of your friends and buy Rivals of Aether because you can have unlimited amounts of fun with this one. Enter the Gungeon is another dungeon crawler with a more traditional pixel art style. The game has players that have access to tons of guns, and you're basically fighting hordes of undead alone or in co-op as they try to reach the end of the dungeon and obtain the gun that erases the past. That's the basic premise of the game, and how this game is different from other dungeon crawlers is that all the rooms and corridors you'll encounter constantly evolve and are randomized. This adds an element of surprise and further ups the challenge of playing the game. Also, you'll be pitted up against some pretty tough bosses, each having weaknesses or a mechanic that allows you to defeat them. You can also level up and trade with merchants to ensure that you are properly equipped for the fight. And the art style, vibrant color palette, and the overall vibe of the entire dungeon is honestly very eye-pleasing. This one is honestly such an easy recommendation, and most people that play it have a great time. It's a staple for pixel games, and I definitely recommend it. Alright, honestly, Hotline Miami is a no-brainer. It's a must-buy game for everyone. That's it. This is a must-play game no matter what you want to experience it for. And obviously, I'm just being biased here. I grew up playing Hotline Miami, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. It has a gorgeous pixel art style. It's honestly so polished, and the combat mechanics are brutal. Honestly, the developers really know how to make a really good game, and they listen to their community. I've completed multiple playthroughs of the game and enjoy it just as much, if not more, every time I go back to it. The basic plot is you play as an anti-hero who is bent on eradicating an underground organization using whatever means necessary. The game has impressive set pieces, brutal action sequences, and honestly delivers on the power and gore fantasy. Hotline Miami is an excellent game from Devolver Digital, which is currently available on Steam for everyone to enjoy. Next up is Dead Cells. This is the 2D Souls-like of the list that borrows the best elements from all-time classics like Metroid and Castlevania games. The game has you exploring a vibrant pixel art style castle and many other locations around it. Dead Cells has a permadeath system, adding even more tension to the game. You can also choose from a wide variety of weapons, I'd say about 140-ish, each providing a unique playstyle. Additionally, you can unlock special abilities and secret passages across the map to quickly travel between levels and areas. This often allows you to bypass some of the unwanted heat along the way. Chances are you are probably going to die a lot starting out, but as you keep learning the combat and the flow of the game, each hurdle starts to become less and less challenging. And before long, you start chaining every weapon and power in your arsenal and flying through areas. Honestly, that's when the game truly hits you and you start appreciating its mechanics and excellent design. Once you get the hang of it, you can clearly see that this game is definitely worth trying. Coming in at number 2 is Noita, a roguelite where you venture through a pixelated world where every pixel reacts to your actions by burning, freezing, crumbling, eroding, and many other things. Every spell you cast here is going to cause a reaction. Having reactive pixels is unique, but the developers didn't stop there and added a procedurally generated world that evolves into something new every time you visit the game. I think this game gets full marks for its visual and technical creativity. The combat mainly revolves around magic spells and custom combos you can create with the spells you have. Noita is honestly so impressive. It's an excellent game if you are even remotely interested in roguelites and dungeon crawlers. Honestly, the game is so good. Just check it out on Steam. If you ever feel like you're wanting to play a roguelite that is very top-notch, high quality, and has magic elements. And of course, at number 1, we have Terraria. Terraria is a massive pixel-themed sandbox adventure game where players are free to choose whatever path they want and play the game however they want. I grew up playing this game and I come back to it every now and then. The developers of the game honestly love it so much, they keep adding more and more and more content and value to it. You have so many options. Some people prefer to build new stuff, while others are interested in exploring new areas, and Terraria manages to provide a really healthy balance between all of these different playstyles. Terraria also has a randomly generated world that takes the game to another level because no two players will experience a world the same way. This creates a unique and honestly unforgettable moment for players. There are so many things that make the game great. Not even just, obviously there are the bosses, but there's the building, there's the exploration, there's the different experiences every time you play. Of all the games on this list, I think Terraria is probably the one I've played the most and still enjoy. And I have a very good connection with the game because, like I said, I played this back on, I think, the PS3 or maybe even also the PS4, I can't remember, but this game just goes way back for me. If you haven't already, I honestly highly recommend everyone watching this video to go check out Terraria, play it, grab some friends to play with, and just experience how good this game actually is. All right, well, I think that's going to cover it. That was our top 10 best pixel art style games on Steam. Hopefully, some of the games mentioned here caught your attention. We have some exciting plans for this channel, so please subscribe and hit the bell icon to keep an eye out for our weekly videos. So until next time, take care.